Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're doing something a little different, a bit more granular. We're not looking at a global policy or a big trend. Instead, we have this incredible source file. It's basically the complete blueprint of a single expert.
Yeah, it's a full career history.
Everything, academic career, professional jobs, and this intense path of continuous learning for a high-level occupational safety and health manager, an OSH manager. Okay, so let's unpack this. I think our mission here is to get past just, reading a resume.
Right.
We want to understand the actual strategy behind building expertise. How does someone deliberately construct this kind of deep, specialized skill set?
And not just for themselves, but so they can manage these really high-hazard environments.
Exactly, and influence the whole corporate culture at the same time. We're sort of dissecting the anatomy of a modern safety leader.
And that word strategy is really the key, because the sources, they don't just give you a list of things they've done.
No.
It's a roadmap. You can actually see the evolution, how a compliance officer becomes this strategic systems integrator. And maybe most importantly, an educator.
An educator tasked with embedding that safety culture across these huge, complex engineering projects. All right, so let's start at the beginning. The foundations, the academic background. It immediately caught my eye. It's not what you'd expect.
No, you'd think maybe civil engineering, something like that.
Right, but this professional started with a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture from Ain Shams University.
Sure.
The specialty was agricultural technology and project management back in 2015.
And that, to me, is just a fantastic illustration of systems thinking.
How so?
Well, think about it. Large-scale agriculture, food processing, which they even studied further in a postgraduate diploma in 2020 on food and dairy quality.
Okay.
It's all about managing incredibly complex systems, biological, logistical, all under these tight compliance standards.
So it's process thinking.
It's process thinking, it's risk mitigation, it's project delivery, that mix of project management and really rigorous quality control. It's the perfect intellectual foundation for building an OSH system.
That is the aha moment right there.
Yeah.
It's not about farming. It's about managing this whole ecosystem of risk.
Yeah.
And we see that payoff almost immediately in their career.
Yeah.
The progression is, well, it's vast.
It's very fast. They start as an OSH officer in 2016, straight out of university. And by 2020, boom, they're in a managerial role.
And the early experience is foundational, too. From 2016 to 2019, they're on these heavy construction projects for the Egyptian army.
Not easy jobs.
No, building sewage pumping stations and then this huge, complex industrial wastewater treatment plant in Rubiki. These are not your average construction site.
Absolutely not. You're talking about high-stakes environments,
Right.
chemical exposure, complex machinery, all of it.
That heavy infrastructure experience, it feels like it sets the whole stage.
It's crucial context. Managing safety on a project like a massive water treatment plant. It exposes you to the very specific hazards, chemical handling, confined spaces, heavy lifting that become essential for the later roles.
And then the managerial shift, starting around 2020, just confirms that whole trajectory. We see the move to managing OSH for these enormous infrastructure projects. First, the gravity networks and pumping stations in the Al Faraya rural cluster.
And then for utilico engineering on the Al Rada cluster in Damietta.
It just shows a professional who is consistently being given roles with more and more complexity, more scale.
And the current role, which started in March of 2025, that's really the peak of it, isn't it?
It really is.
OSH manager for a super specialized, high-risk job, a 1,400 millimeter diameter tunnel piling project in New Cairo.
Wow.
I mean, that demands expertise in deep excavation, geotechnical risk, urban construction. You can't just rely on field experience there. You have to have the theory to back it up.
And that need for theory, for mastery, brings us to what I think is the most astounding part of this file.
The training.
The sheer volume of it and the timing, especially that intense period between 2023 and 2025. This isn't just, passive learning.
No, it's a dedicated hunt for global benchmarks.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because you can actually group all this training into three very distinct, very strategic pillars.
Absolutely. And that training strategy, it's all designed to build organizational leverage.
Okay, let's start with pillar one, core international credentials. If someone listening wants to get into this field, what's the gold standard?
Well, globally, the NIBOSH International General Certificate, that's pretty much considered the top credential for high-level management. It's the capstone.
And we see that scheduled for late 2025.
Yes, but look at the steps they took to get there. In November 2023, they got the IOH Managing Safely Certificate.
And what's the difference?
IOH is more practical. It's management focused. It shows you have competence in the day-to-day operational safety.
It's a stepping stone.
It's the critical stepping stone. They're making sure they can apply the principles on the ground while they're chasing that higher level, more academic credential.
So shore up the operational side first, then go for the global strategic validation. Smart. All right, pillar 2. This is critical for anyone in a modern business. Integrated management systems. This is where we see that commitment to putting safety into a bigger picture with quality and environment, the QES triad.
And this is where that strategy of, let's call it, cross-validation really shows up.
What do you mean by that?
They didn't just take one course on the ISO standards. They went to multiple providers. Look at ISO 4501, the OSH management standard.
Okay, I see it here. December 2022, February 2023, and then again in February 2025.
Right. Why the repetition? It tells you they're not just trying to get a certificate to hang on the wall.
They're benchmarking their own knowledge.
Exactly, against different interpretations, making sure they have this deep functional understanding of the standard. It's not about compliance, it's about rigor.
And they also completed the full triad. ISO 9001 for quality, 14001 for environmental management. All in early 2025.
Which means they can manage safety not as some isolated department, but as a fully integrated part of the business.
And within all that, risk is obviously king.
Paramount. They pursued the ISO 31000 risk management standard through multiple, globally recognized providers, Allison, Arab Safety, PCR Global.
All through 2023 and 2024.
That dedication shows they view risk assessment itself as this complex process that you have to master from different angles.
Okay, that brings us to pillar 3, high-risk operations.
The practical stuff.
This is the knowledge you actually need to run that tunnel project.
Yeah.
We're talking about very specific, very dangerous environments.
Yeah, and the training is hyper-specific to their work. The record is just full of confined space safety courses.
It starts way back in 2017 with OSHA standards.
But then it escalates. Specialized workshops in 2024, courses on SCBA air cylinders. Confined spaces, tanks, manholes, tunnels. They're among the highest risk places in construction. You have to be able to manage rescue, atmosphere. It's non-negotiable.
And we see the same level of depth on vertical hazards. The work at height and rescue course and the scaffold competent person and inspector certs, both in late 2023.
These are the daily realities of the job, and this training means they can lead and inspect these things, not just delegate them.
Right.
And finally, their commitment to process safety is just striking. Process safety management, or PSM. It's the difference between looking at why one single operation failed versus why the whole system, the whole site design has failures.
That's a huge distinction.
It is. They're doing advanced topics like major industrial accidents and their prevention from the ILO and an intro to PSM in 2025. It shows they're analyzing failure at an organizational and engineering level, not just at the front line.
To get all these international standards, all these specialized operational certs, and do it while managing a massive infrastructure project that is incredible professional fame.
And that commitment, it leads us to the final, and I think maybe the most important piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
This expertise isn't just for them. It's not about personal implementation. It's about strategic dissemination.
Spreading the knowledge.
Yes. The file shows this whole parallel track dedicated to becoming an expert trainer, a culture shaper.
That is the real strategic investment, isn't it? The number of trainers TOT courses it's enormous.
It is. Certified International Trainer Diploma in late 2023, then more specialized TOT courses in 2024, 2025, even one on becoming a certified digital trainer.
They're basically building an in-house university.
Exactly. Why would you invest so much time and money learning how to teach?
Because it's the only way to manage risk at that scale.
It's the only way. You have to embed a safety culture from the top all the way down. A safety manager who is also a certified international trainer. They have the leverage to write, deliver, and certify the training that actually changes behavior.
They're not just managing safety.
They're engineering the safety mindset.
And that explains the layered approach they have to risk assessment tools. It's not enough to just use this standard hazard identification and risk assessment, the HIRIC model.
Right, which they learned, but they actively added more nuanced tools to their toolbox.
Like dynamic risk assessment.
Which is all about assessing risk in real time as conditions are changing on a busy site. And then they invested in behavior-based safety BBS training.
So for anyone listening who isn't familiar, what's the practical side of behavior-based safety?
BBS is fascinating. It shifts the focus away from just engineering controls and more toward human factors.
The people.
The people. It's about observing employees, analyzing high-risk behaviors, and then using positive reinforcement to build safer habits. A manager who has the technical standards like ISO 45001 and the behavioral tools like BBS
Can tackle risk from every single angle: the sister, the equipment, and the people.
It's a truly holistic approach. I mean, they even covered work-related stress risk assessment at a NEBOSH conference.
Oh.
It shows they're managing the whole spectrum of employee health, not just, physical hazards. This is why the file is so compelling. It's someone deliberately assembling a knowledge ecosystem
One that lets them be both a high-level manager and a strategic educator.
who can fundamentally shift the culture of their entire workforce. This isn't passive compliance. It's the strategic assembly of organizational leverage.
Okay, so to recap the trajectory, we started with this foundation in systems thinking from agriculture and project management.
Which powered that rapid career climb in heavy infrastructure.
And then that hands-on experience was deliberately backed up by this massive investment in dual expertise. One track for international compliance and high-risk operations.
And the other track focused completely on becoming a certified educator and behavioral strategist.
So what does this all mean for the modern safety and health expert?
Well, the sources really demonstrate that expertise today is defined by integration. You need both the breadth to understand the whole ISO management triad
And the depth.
and the depth to master these critical hazards like process safety and confined spaces. This trajectory, it defines continuous, planned expertise development. They have systematically acquired every tool they need to manage risk, culture, and compliance all at the same time.
It really shows that to get to the top of this field, you can't just comply with standards. You have to have the skills to train others and strategically shape the culture.
And that leads to the final thought for you to mull over. The source material also mentions this person holds accreditations with 2 different consulting firms, EnviroCivec Union Consulting and Taladet and IMEM Engineering Consulting.
Interesting.
So how does integrating all this training, this deep project experience, and these formal external consulting accreditations, how does that elevate the manager from just being an internal implementer to a strategic external consultant?
It raises a really important question about the future role of the OSH manager, doesn't it?
It does. They're not just regulators anymore. They are becoming providers of strategic oversight and cultural transformation who can manage these complex ecosystems both inside and potentially outside their own organization.